Tom Garrett, a fixture on VirginiaPreps.com, joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast to talk some AAA baseball. Tournament gets underway on Tuesday. Tom joins me with emphasis on the Central Region teams, but we talk about a little bit about the whole tournament as well. Here's Tom Garrett on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Tom Garrett, VirginiaPreps.com, covers the Central Region better than anyone around, and he joins me here on the Sports Buffet podcast. The Central Region and AAA Baseball State Championships start on Tuesday, with the winners advancing to Friday's semis at the Westfield Jubilee. And Tom, we're going to talk about two semifinals in particular. One is going to take place at Cosby High School tomorrow, as Cosby is going to host Lake Braddock. For people who don't know a lot about Cosby's squad, give them to me in a nutshell.
Cosby has emerged as one of the premier programs in the Central Region over the last several years. They're a newer high school, and Coach Tim Lowry previously had been at Clover Hill. He won a state title there in '94, and then when Cosby opened up, taking a lot of the enrollment away from Clover Hill, he moved over to the new school, and he's been very successful there. He just won his second regional title at Cosby, and they're a team that they have a good mix of younger players and seniors. Luke Lowry is probably the most prominent player on their team. That's Coach Lowry's son, who's a catcher, East Carolina commit, big-time prospect. They've also got a strong lineup from top to bottom, probably the best in the region. Shortstop Adam Meeker, outfielder A.J. Nicely, third baseman Bradley McKay, who had a really great regional tournament, and several other top players, including a deep pitching staff with Michael Carpenter and Hunter Williams. Hunter Williams is probably the pitcher that will start the game on Tuesday against Lake Braddock.
When Cosby is not having their best times, what goes wrong for them that causes them to sputter?
Well, they had a couple of games this year when they had a bit of a self-destruct gene, I think. And it looks like that they've worked that out of the system. They're obviously red hot. They won the Dominion and Central Region tournaments, but they had a couple of games this year, notably against Hanover and then against James River, where they had leads late and couldn't hold them. Particularly in the Hanover game, errors really were the bugaboo there. It looked against Deep Run like that might happen again, because there was a pop-up, an intro pop-up that with 2 outs that was dropped that resulted in 2 Deep Run runs that could have turned that into a season defeat for Cosby had they not come back to win the game 5-4. But they've had a couple of games, like I said, Halifax, where they had some early errors that led to losses, and the second James River game that they lost 11-1. But recently, they have been red hot. They've been playing their best baseball. They've only lost one game in about the last 6 weeks or so, and that was to James River. And after they lost that game, they've since beaten the Rapids twice. So this is as good as Cosby has played all year.
What do they expect to see out of their opponent on Tuesday?
I think the big thing with Lake Braddock is, even though they were the Northern Region runner-up, there's really not much doubt that they were the best team in the North all year. The team that they lost to, that we'll talk about in a bit, West Springfield, beat them 3-2 in 9 innings in the regional final, but that was a team that Lake Braddock had crushed 3 times earlier in the year. It beat them 27-3. Cumulative over those 3 games. They're both from the same district, the Patriot District, and again, this is a Lake Braddock team that had pretty clearly been the best team in that region, and because of just one tough game against a red-hot West Springfield team, they now find themselves going on the road, and it's really a tough draw for Cosby. Cosby is going to have to face, a lineup that, like their own, has a good mix of seniors and underclassmen. Sophomore shortstop Jack Owens is one of their standouts. Alex Ransback, he had .492 during the regular season. So Dylan O'Connor has had a really good regional tournament. This is, again, a good team, good lineup from top to bottom. Pitching-wise, this is where I think the wrinkle comes in. Cosby's going to see Thomas Rogers, most likely. He's a hard-throwing left-hander, 7-1, 1.69 ERA during the regular season. Really solid player, but the best pitcher on the team is a guy named Michael Church. He was the Northern Region Pitcher of the Year and the Patriot District Pitcher of the Year. They elected to pitch him on Saturday night in the regional final. It did not pay off. As I said, they lost to West Springfield, but it's just the reason that struck me so odd was because it's it represents a very different philosophy from what you see in the Central region, where once you get to the regional final and both teams are going to advance, you're going to save your top-line pitchers. I mean, James River obviously didn't use Kirby or Roberts, and Cosby, they weren't going to start Williams or any of their top-line guys. They started the number 4 pitcher, Daniel Bird, and that's kind of been the norm in the Central region for the last 20 years. Not the case here. So the point of all that is that Cosby is not going to see the best pitcher that Lake Braddock has. Instead, we'll see another very good pitcher in Junior Thomas Rogers, and he's a lefty, but it's just it represents a different mindset, I think, than what you see coaches do around here.
And you touched on that other semifinal at the bottom of the bracket, West Springfield and James River. If the winners met, obviously, the two matchups we're talking about, they wouldn't see each other till the state championship. James River is the runner-up in the Central region. Kind of hit on them a little bit and tell me what their strong points are.
Well, I think that coming into the season, it was a team that was loaded with stars, and they still are, but they had some injury issues, and most notably Kit Sheets, who was their best pitcher last year, had suffered an arm injury and had to have season-ending Tommy John surgery on that arm, so obviously he's been unavailable for most of the season. But even without him, this is a James River team that has a pretty deep pitching staff. Nate Kirby is, again, another left-handed pitcher, a standout. He was, of course, an all-region player. And Jack Roberts, who pitched them to a regional semifinal win over Matoaka, he's another good arm that they have. He normally plays first base, and he's quite a slugger in his own right there. They're a team that, again, I mean, this is probably as much Division I talent as there is in the region on one team. And they had a little, I wouldn't say they had an up and down season, but in the postseason, they have not, I don't think, unlike a Cosby, have not been playing their best baseball because, quite frankly, a team that they beat twice during the regular season, Cosby beat them twice in the postseason in both the Dominion and the Central Region championship games. So I think that this is, as I said, it was a tough draw for Cosby to get Lake Braddock, and, with all due respect to West Springfield, I think that this is a good draw for James River. This West Springfield team, they have peaked at the right time, but if you look back over the course of their season, they are not what you would call a dominant team. Lake Braddock has been, and up north, has been clearly a better team over the course of the season. They've lost 9 games. They've had games this year that they've lost, 19-0 and 9-0 and 11-1 and so on. And, I think that, again, that they've gotten hot at the right time, but I don't think that they are the team that James River is. And, of course, you have to go on the road and all that, and all those factors are in place, and they have won a lot of big games of late, but I just feel like this is a team that is this is a winnable game for James River. And for West Springfield, they've got a strong baseball tradition. They won 3 state titles in AAA, and most recently just in 2010. And they're a team that, one thing they do have going for them is Connor Tagg, who is their ace, and that's who James River's going to get this year. And during the regular season, he had more strikeouts than innings. He only lost 1 game, had the ERA in the mid-ones. And, I think that that's something that West Springfield has to feel like we are getting James River on our terms. We've got him at home. We're hot. We won the regional title. We've got our best pitcher going for us. So they've got to feel good about that. But I think James River is a better baseball team than West Springfield is.
Final question for you, Tom, and I'll make it a 2-parter. Definitely appreciate your time. We'll do this much more in the future. If you're a team at this point in the season, what, obviously they say good pitching will beat good hitting any day, but what is the one thing that you would want to have? Would you rather have that better pitching, or would you rather have that better hitting? And again, if we're playing with our monopoly money here and you have to take James River or Cosby to be at the Jubilee this weekend, who do you like more than the other?
Well, for the first part of that question, I always say the most important thing under the format that we have in Virginia to win a regional or state title is a really good number 2 pitcher. And I think that pitching depth is the most important thing. We have a single elimination format, So you can't afford to have a bad day once you get into, the state tournament, obviously. And I think that it's always a given that any team that gets this far is going to have a good number one. I mean, you just don't see a team without a really good pitcher advance to this point. If you look at the teams in the Central Region history that have won state titles, whether it's James River in 2007 or whether it's Tucker in the 80s or Mills Godwin or whoever, there's always a good number two pitcher in the mix. And so I think that's the most important thing. I say that, though, with the following caveat that I also always throw out there, and I mentioned it in one of the two previews this year. The only thing, the kryptonite for a team with a lot of good pitching depth and a team that's really talented, a team that has good hitting and good pitching and good fielding, is a team that is red hot, especially in the hitting department. And that is the one thing about baseball that is, I think, unique about the sport. You can have a basketball team that, has a good shooting night and then the next round they go cold, but a baseball team that gets hot hitting-wise, that seems to kind of last a week or two. And I think that once you run into a team like that, and maybe West Springfield, I knew I'd do that at least once. Maybe West Springfield is such a team. Once you run into a team like that, that's really the only thing that can offset the kind of pitching depth that Cosby and James River have. And as to the second question, I actually like, and again, maybe this is a little bit of a Central Region bias, but I actually like both of them to win on Tuesday. I think that the matchups and the circumstances leading up to these games have been fortunate for our Central Region teams. I think they're both favorites. Again, it's baseball, so it's not like they play 10 times. James River and Cosby would win 9 of those 10 games. It's more like 6, but I still think that both are favored. And as for which of those two is more likely to get to the finals, I think I would have to say Cosby just based on I think that Kellum is probably going to win on the other side of the bracket, and that's going to be that's a pretty tough opponent for James River in the second round, especially considering that, Jack Roberts is coming off an arm injury this year. I mean, he didn't pitch until after spring break, and that's who would be the starter for James River. I don't think James River's pitching depth, because of the injury to Roberts, because of Sheets being out of the equation because of his injury, I don't think the pitching depth is very clearly is not what it looked like it was going to be on paper, back in February. I think that, by contrast, Cosby has shown itself to have more pitching depth with Williams and Carpenter and even Bird in the regional finals as well. And I think as a result of that, Cosby looks more like a team right now that's built to make it to the state finals. But it's not out of the question they're both going to get there. It really isn't. I mean, James River, despite their record, they played the toughest schedule in the state of Virginia, and despite their record, they are definitely a team good enough to make it to and possibly even win the state title. I just think that Cosby right now is the hotter of the two teams, and looks like they have a little more in the pitching department.
Tom, I enjoyed your first appearance on the Sports Buffet podcast. Can't wait to do it again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Really appreciate it, Bob. Thanks a lot.